Are the Prototype and Harley Sawyer friends? Is it just me, or did we just skip like 8 chapters where Sawyer and the Prototype are now totally cool with each other? Which makes me ask, what actually happened between them? We know for a fact that the Prototype hated Sawyer for his brutal and immoral experimentation. So what happened between them to where they're now working together? Well, it's not as easy as saying they just dapped each other up and called off the beef. There's a little more to this story, and they're not exactly cool with each other. If we go back to when they first hated each other, we need to look at the tape we find right after we see the Prototype kill Catnap. In this tape, we hear Harley is working on observing the Prototype. However, it remains silent with each session. But as he's speaking, the Prototype finally decides to speak, showing just how intelligent and deranged it truly is.
Today's discovery.
Ready to talk now, are you?
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to what exactly?
You stick us, beat us, tear at flesh. Do you feel it?
There's a secret inside you, 1006. Regardless, I learn something new about you every day.
Thank you.
You thank me?
Absolutely.
I learn something new about you every day.
So we can assume that the Prototype is kept in captivity here, which allows Sawyer to observe and talk to it freely, because if it weren't then, Sawyer would be dead in 2 minutes. As in chapter 2, we hear of an incident involving the Prototype where he almost escaped his room but killed an employee in the process.
The room appeared to be empty. One surveillance specialist went in to confirm his absence. However, upon opening the door, she realized that the Prototype had hidden in one of the camera's blind spots. However, another surveillance specialist was able to remotely relock the door, despite the other specialists still being inside. One casualty occurred.
Which means the Prototype's relationship with Sawyer is probably tormenting him. Imagine being locked away in a case by someone, and every single day they come by to observe you as an experiment. Then they beat you, tear open your flesh, and you never get to see the sun. The desire for finally escaping one day would never leave your mind, but it's even worse. The Prototype is way smarter than Sawyer and us. So imagine if a chimpanzee had you locked up and there was nothing you could do. And this would explain why the Prototype coordinated the Hour of Joy. All of the experiments were fed up with being tortured day after day. And so to stop it all, they killed all of the employees, took the orphans down to the labs, and never left the factory to avoid it from ever happening again. So if the Prototype hated Sawyer that much, then I'm so lost how they're just working together in chapter 4. But that's until we look at the evidence as a whole. We actually have many things in chapter 4 that let us know what their relationship is like, and it's not a good one either. For example, during the Sarley Hoyer sequence, after we put in one of the batteries, Sawyer says this:
I'll bury myself so far down that no one will ever find me. Not you, not the Prototype, not anyone.
If Sawyer is saying that he's gonna bury himself, that not even the Prototype will find him, we already see a bit of distrust between the two, leading me to believe that their relationship isn't really voluntary, but forced either by a shared goal or the Prototype is in a position of power over Sawyer, which we perfectly see after this. Once we make it out and kill Sawyer, if you manage to grab the key card during the fight, you'll gain access to this room behind where Sawyer was kept, and in it we find probably the best possible tape that gives us all the answers we need. In the tape, we hear a conversation between Sawyer and the Prototype, most likely after the Hour of Joy, and the Prototype is furious. It asks Sawyer if it made a mistake allowing him to survive. And so, already off the bats, we can assume the prototype is in a position of power. But then, Sawyer being Sawyer, uses his wit to get himself out of harm's way from the prototype. And not only that, but he gains the position of authority back over the prototype. In the conversation, we hear a battle for who has more leverage against the other person, and it's clear that the prototype needs Sawyer for something.
You can't expect to do it on your own so quickly. The situation necessitates it be done quickly. I can only be reactive up here. Then of what use are you? You know I'm still your best shot at cracking that secret. If I weren't, you would have already killed me. A sound observation.
Yes.
You have made yourself useful. Provide me more options. I will try
Again.
Of course.
So if the prototype and Sawyer don't actually like each other, then what's the motive for their collaboration? Well, in the tape, we hear that they're working on more experiments. Cause if they're running out of time and don't have enough test subjects and whatever they're doing is in the labs, it's clear that the prototype is trying to do something involving a new way of experimenting on people or even toys. And this would also make the connection as to why the prototype needs Sawyer. Sawyer worked on the Bigger Bodies initiative for years, so with all of his experience, he can easily help the prototype with whatever he needs. So there's a couple theories that could come along with this. The first is that the prototype staged the Hour of Joy and made sure that Sawyer would be one of the only survivors, as whatever they're after, Harley calls it a secret, almost as if they don't exactly know what they're after, but the prototype wants it and is using Sawyer to get it. So with whatever method the prototype used to communicate to the other toys when the Hour of Joy would start, he could have also mentioned to leave Sawyer alive. And we know that toys obey the prototype, as when we meet Dog Day in chapter 3, he tells us that the smiling critters obey in order not to be tortured or killed, and for continued obedience, they're fed.
Catnap. The prototype is his god, and this is what he does to heretics. These little toys follow Catnap to avoid that very fate, and in return, they are fed.
This means that if the toys and the prototype left Sawyer alive for the prototype's plan, Sawyer would be totally oblivious to the entire thing, but went along with it, because now the prototype is the one in control and Sawyer is the one in containment. But my second theory actually seems to fit better with one of the chapter 4 tapes, and it's that the prototype and Sawyer were the ones behind the Hour of Joy, which would be the reason that Sawyer survived, because in the third tape we find in the warden's office, we hear the warden running for his life, and it seems he makes it back into his office and locks the door, which is when he starts talking to Sawyer. And when you listen to Sawyer's tone, he's as calm as a person could possibly be in the midst of all this chaos, but he eventually convinces the warden to give him the Omni Hand so that he can help the warden escape. Now, we don't know if this actually happened, but knowing Sawyer, it probably didn't.
Doctor, what's going on? What's happening? It's...
Yes, I can hear it. The Omni Hand. If you give it to me, I can get you anywhere. I'll have control over everything. I can shut some doors, open others. I can make you a pathway that leads right to the exit.
So why was Sawyer so calm here? Wouldn't he be at least a little bit afraid that the toys could find where he's kept and just rip the machine to shreds? Well, if Sawyer was working with the prototype already, then he has no reason to be afraid. Everything's going according to plan. But then this begs the question, why in the world would Sawyer work with the prototype before the Hour of Joy? Why would he just let let himself be put under the prototype's control? Well, that's because of what happened to him. In the very first tape I showed you, Sawyer is still in his human body, but as we hear in chapter 4, the higher ups at Playtime Co. decided that Sawyer was too dangerous to be kept alive, but too smart to be dead. So they came up with a compromise to keep Sawyer contained, but without a body. And in the tape, we hear of when Sawyer first woke up. And guys, when I tell you, I'm surprised this man didn't turn green, big, and hulky. When I tell you he was gonna become the bombs of Safe Haven and explode the factory himself from his pure anger is not an overstatement.
You'll die for this, leaf. When I get my hands on you, you're a dead man!
His temper is a bad look for you, Harley.
So after being betrayed, Sawyer would 100% be looking for some revenge. And with the prototype also looking for some revenge as well, they could have come together to work out a plan using the prototype's intelligence combined with Sawyer's knowledge of Playtime Co.'s practices, and devised a plan to enact what we now know as the Hour of Joy, allowing both of them to survive the event. And now, whatever it is they're after, they're working together and trying to get it done fast, and they're almost out of time. But with Sawyer now dead and the prototype never trying to stop us from killing him, is it possible that the secret we're after can be uncovered through the prototype? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.